Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me on this pre-recorded live session, a coaching session. So we're about to begin. We're just waiting on Brittany to join us, and then I'll let Brittany know like why am I speaking. Brittany, let me know when you're ready and you can hear me.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay. So the coaching session is already recording. So
Okay.
I was just speaking beforehand, just to let the folks know that this would be like a pre-recorded live session. But we're just gonna take it as like a regular session. There's no like I'm not gonna try to act in any way or anything like that.
Okay.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well today. How are you?
Well, I'm doing good. Um,
Good.
so what we're going to focus today mostly is your Psychology Today profile. Uh,
Hmm.
well, let me backtrack. Have you ever participated in any sort of business coaching before?
I have not.
No? Okay. Um, so do you have any idea what we will go through today?
I don't actually.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over your profile. One thing I'm gonna ask of you to do is to log into your profile. So then that way, when we go over some of the edits, that you'll be able to edit it live as we're going it through. The whole
Okay.
purpose is to help you better, I would say better um, position your messaging on Psychology Today to be able to attract who you want to go after, as
Hmm.
well as like the type of clients. So before we open that up, um, could you, because since this is the first time I'm like meeting you in this context,
Hmm.
could you share with me a little bit about one, how long have you been in private practice? Why did you decide to open up a private practice? Two, how do you currently feel about your marketing efforts when it comes to the practice? And three, how come you decided to opt in into participating in this session? So I'll let
Hmm.
you.
Okay. So I've been in private practice for about 3 years now. Um, I got into private practice because I got burnt out in corporate, to be completely honest. I worked in the addiction field for about 10 years and wanted a change in pace. And so private practice presented itself as an opportunity. And so I took it. Um, and I haven't put a lot of effort into marketing, to be completely honest. I've just been kind of building the plane in the air. Um, I, for a short period between working in treatment, I worked for a group practice for about a year. I was able to take those clients with me into my own private practice. And so I kind of just already hit the ground running. And now I'm kind of taking a step back and realizing that there's a lot of holes in my business. And so marketing is one of the big holes.
Okay. And well, what when you say marketing is one of the big holes, what about marketing itself is a big hole?
Outside of my psychology today, I haven't really marketed myself. A lot of the referrals that I get is from old colleagues. Um, and then I have my psychology today profile and therapy for Black girls. Outside of that, I haven't really set up um, marketing. I don't track it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Okay. And let me see. Um, how come you wanted to volunteer to be part of this whole process?
One, because I saw what you were doing on our Facebook private pay practitioners page, and I kept missing the workshops.
Mhm.
But as I started to look into different ways to build my business, some of the things that kept popping up were business coaches and offering these packages of, SEO, and here's how you update your psychology today. This is what your website needs to look like. Um, and a lot of it felt overwhelming. I was really appreciative about your videos. I followed you on YouTube and things like that. and you made it very simple, like
Mhm.
very, very simple, very easy to do. Um, and so that didn't feel as overwhelming as some of the other like coaching packages that were out there. And so, yeah, as you offered volunteers, like I just wanted to be a part of what you were building.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing. So, um, uh, let me see. Could you, if you can, uh, did you, I don't know if you added in the calendar a link, because I had just, my computer had to restart, so I wasn't able to
Mhm.
get it prepared. So I'm gonna try to open up my Google Chrome. If you
Okay.
can, could you share in the chat, your Psychology Today profile? So then that
Yes.
way.
Um, hold on. Why is it not for some reason? Hold on. In the chat. Gotta find my chat button.
Are you in Austin? Okay, I think I found you. Okay.
Yes, I'm in Austin.
Okay, let me
And I'm
show
trying to find my password, but for some reason, like none of them are working.
you. So can you see my screen?
I can, yes.
Okay. So before I start, I will just be honest, I haven't been able to skim through it.
Hmm.
A lot of folks don't know when they're seeing this recording is that I've been doing a lot of the back end editing of the other modules.
Okay.
I haven't had like an actual chance to like look at it. I wish I would have, because then I would have had like bullet points and made it easier. But then I figured, you know what? Fuck it, just let's be organic and then
Hmm.
let's see how it goes. So I'm gonna take the same position I always take with anybody who I've given like a free review or consultation around it. How do you personally feel about your profile?
Um, I mean, I'm not overly excited about it. Um, I think that I did update the pictures, which those are new.
Okay.
But as far as um, the content that's on it, um, I think that it's more of me telling everyone who I am versus inviting clients to, uh, instead of inviting clients into therapy with me. Um, I think I kind of hit just the basics with it. Um, but there's some pieces that I do like. I think that there are things that I have shared. I don't know how I want to say this. Um, there's some things I do like. I don't think that it's all bad, but I know that I haven't put in the effort that I've seen on other pages, um, especially for therapists who are private pay.
Okay. Okay.
And that's eventually where I want to move to.
So remind me again, you've been in practice, did you say 3 years?
Mhm. Yes,
3 years under insurance?
yes.
And is this, are you independently paneled with different insurances, or are you going through one of those tech companies like Alma Headway?
I'm with Headway.
Okay. And so you
Mhm.
essentially want to transition to private pay.
Correct.
Okay. But why do you want to transition to private pay?
Um, that's a good question. Um, Besides the financial freedom, insurance presents a problem with, especially with Headway. What I found is that there's a disruption in service because clients' benefits are constantly being reworked. Um, their copays will get changed
Mhm.
like month to month. And I've even noticed that some of my clients' copay is higher than what I get, right? So they end up paying $140 for service and I get 120, and so there's some things that don't really feel um fair for me or my clients. Um And I really want to just focus on my niche, do really good work, and not have to worry about um, insurance and the crazy documentation that it requires and all of that. I just want to be able to give good therapy.
Okay. Has anyone, even through the Facebook group of the private pay practitioners, has anyone shared with you what makes an insurance-based client versus like a private pay-based client versus like a self-pay client? Has anyone shared what's the difference?
I've kind of picked up, like I've read some posts, but if you would like to explain it for this, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, so insurance-based clients are those who have like Medicaid, Medicare, or commercial insurance, like HMO or PPO. HMO
Hmm.
being Health Maintenance Organization and PPO, Preferred Provider Organization, I believe. And um, if if the client requires and needs to use insurance, they are an insurance-based client. They are not a private pay-based client. A private pay-based client is someone who could have insurance, like they could have like PPO, and the PPO is like the high tier versus HMO. It's not. And the biggest difference with those is HMO, the person, the client, or the individual is restricted to only seeing professionals, healthcare staff that's in network or that accepts that insurance.
Hmm.
Versus PPO, they have the ability to go outside of whatever their system is, which is why it's called out of network. So they can choose someone in network, similar to HMO, but they can also choose someone outside. And when they choose someone outside, like private pay a therapist, a private paid therapist does have the ability to offer, it's a super bill. To me, it's like a fancy way of saying like a medical receipt. Uh,
Hmm.
and then they are the ones who are submitting for reimbursement instead of when you're on insurance, you're the one submitting for reimbursement. So when you
Hmm.
submit your billing, you're doing so to get reimbursed for the services you offer. Out of network or private pay is when the client is doing it. So you offer them the super bill or the medical receipt. They then submit that with insurance along with like a reimbursement claim. And then depending on how much you charge and depending on what the insurances tend to reimburse their in-network providers will depend on how much they get. Now, the issue that I've come to learn from that group is that when you're private pay, you're still susceptible to being audited by insurance.
Hmm.
So then you have self-pay or sometimes known as cash pay, which is basically you don't give a super bill, you just give a payment receipt. And that's it. And the difference between that is that the payment receipt does not include medical related information such as a diagnosis or service code and description. And that's pretty much it. It might have the service like couples therapy or individual therapy and the payment, but then that's it. So a
Okay.
client cannot submit that to insurance to get reimbursement because it requires the diagnosis piece.
Hmm.
So now, when it comes to private pay or even self-pay, the consensus with a lot of people that transition from insurance assume is that they tend to be those who have access to financial resources. And so that's one aspect of it. But then to me, I've defined it as private pay clients either have access to finances, resources, and knowledge. Finances, it's not just like the rich can pay for the service. It's more of you have to look at their financial circumstances that allows them to be able to afford your service. And I'm sharing this now to help us prep for once I start like editing your profile, because then
Okay.
you have an idea as to why we're doing it. So you have, of course, the people who are like the rich and wealthy that can afford it. Then you have the self-employed. Then you have college students whose parents tend to like have the financial resources to pay for the services. Then you have people who received alimony because of a divorce.
Hmm.
You have people who've won a lawsuit settlement. Then there's people who won the lottery. So it's basically financial as anybody who has access to finances for some reason, whether if it's work related or circumstantial. Um, Knowledge, or private pay client has everything to do with a person that understands their benefits. So if they have a PPO insurance, PPO allows for out-of-network or OON reimbursement. So that's basically what I had said before. You give them the super bill for the medical receipt, they submit it, and then they get reimbursed through insurance up to, I believe, up to 80% of whatever the cost is. normally I would suggest all therapists try to charge more than insurance because many insurances will either reimburse at their rate or whatever is lower. So if you're charging lower than insurance, they're going to reimburse you at your rate. So I always suggest just charge a little bit more than insurance if you're starting off. And then resources has everything to do with either if the client has a healthcare savings account or a flexible savings account, HSA or
Mhm.
FSA. An FSA, normally it's through the employer that they work with, that they get pre-tax funds taken from their check and put towards this card, like a Visa card.
Mhm.
That card is used for healthcare expenses, out-of-pocket healthcare expenses. The difference between an FSA and an HSA is the FSA is funded through the employer, the HSA is funded through the person. So if the company doesn't have it, they can just open up a healthcare savings account for themselves.
Okay.
So, or the other resource is people. So other types of people that could pay privately could be like couples and families because there's multiple parties involved and they can split the cost of the service if they wanted to.
Mhm.
Um, and there's multiple other types of people like people who are retired or celebrities, athletes, influencers. Like there's different sets of people and even your everyday working professional, accountants, doctors, lawyers, um, uh, massage therapists, anybody who basically, again, either has access to one of those three things. So I say that to say, I don't want people who want to transition from insurance to private pay to only assume it's people that got money. Like that's one aspect of it. And some of them aren't like rich. They're in a position that again, either their employment, the employer, or their circumstance that allows them to have access to that.
Mhm.
So with that said, what I have learned from my experience is that um, anybody who's willing to pay out of pocket, because no one's giving you cash. We're now at an age where people are just going to put a credit or debit card on file or
Right.
HSA, FSA card on file. So if someone's willing to pay out of pocket, I would say, let's just say, for out of pure fairness, 8 out of 10 times they're willing to because they are looking for a specialist. They're looking for someone who specializes in the issue that they're struggling with instead of going with a generalist. The
Mhm.
difference is if I start reading your profile, a generalist profile comes across as you can treat everything in a kitchen sink. And what that looks like is that people create like a list. I specialize in anxiety, coma, depression, coma, relationship issues. If you're constantly giving me a lot of comments, then that's a generalist speak because you're trying
Mhm.
to essentially throw a wide net and capture as much as you can. Versus if your profile is very fine-tuned and it only speaks to this type of client, that
Mhm.
is a client that's struggling with something and they fit to one of those three categories: knowledge, resources, or finances. So, are you ready for me to give you some constructive feedback?
I'm ready.
Okay. How many folks have read your profile? How many folks have you shown this to?
I mean, no one that I've directed and asked like, "Can you read this for me?"
Oh, okay. And I know that you mentioned like you've seen my videos before. Have you seen
Mhm.
any of the videos that explains the search behavior process for clients before they
I have
find?
not seen that one yet.
Okay. So let me backtrack. Let me share that first, and then we'll hit the profile. So you're in
Okay.
Austin. You're in Austin, and I
Mhm.
see here it says trauma, anxiety, and addiction. So that's what
Yes.
you labeled as your specialty.
Yes.
Trauma, let's see, trauma, anxiety, and addiction. Okay. Let me quickly skim through. Let me see. Okay. Trauma, anxiety, depression. Okay. Okay. So let's go to Austin. So normally, how clients start is they either are going to go to Google or they happen to come across Psychology Today and they'll enter in their location. If they
Mhm.
Google like therapist near me or something like that, then Psychology Today has done a great job as far as like their marketing to be able to be shown at the top. So even if they click it from Google and they enter here, it's normally going to show as therapist in the location. So there's two types of client search behavior that I've come to learn. There's what I call a browser and a buyer. The browser is someone who has landed on this page, this first results page, and they're just like browsing around. They're just looking to see what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the type of client that you want to market to. Now, the reason why I say that is because I've heard from many people, they're trying to figure out what the algorithm is with Psychology Today. They're like, oh, how can I get shown on the first page? And then some people might say, oh, you just have to edit it like on a daily basis or weekly basis, just add a period, delete something. But I try to tell people, yes, there are certain engineers and developers who have created and cultivated this website, but it's not Google. Google is focused on the SEO, the search engine optimization. This is a directory. The way that it works is that it's going to showcase what the person is looking for by narrowing down the options, which is why you have the buyer. The buyer is going to be the client who's going to look at these filtering options and they're going to select based on what they need. So if they're in a position of like, I just want to work with a woman, so they're going to go in gender and then select female.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they are insurance based, they're going to select insurance and then select one. So here, what I tend to focus on is your top three specialties. So your top three specialties was what? Trauma, addiction, and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to click on issues and we're going to pretend we're one of the clients and we're going to look for, let's see, addiction. So we're going to look at addiction. Now, I just want you to pay attention to what's going to happen on the results. Now, once I selected addiction, we still want to focus on the three main areas: the picture, the name, and the first four lines. These first four lines are connected to your first four lines in your personal statement. The reason why that's important is because if I go back, this is what clients see as your first four lines. My name is, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been working in counseling field for over 12 years. I'm a therapist and registered yoga teacher. I like to engage in deep conversation that questions your narrative. That's what they see, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to click on issues, and then we're going to click on addiction. And then what you're going to see is it's going to filter the results based on anyone who has selected addiction. So I'm going to scroll down to see if your profile shows up on this first page. Okay, so it hasn't shown up on the first page.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what you might notice is that there is this italicized feature, as well as this like the word addiction highlighted in yellow. And if I continue scrolling down, this person has a bigger italicized feature. And they have the word addiction highlighted in yellow on the first four lines. Has anybody explained to you how they got that?
No.
No? Okay. So it's relatively simple. And how I figured it out was simply when I clicked on the profile. So the italicized feature shows up if you included your specialty word for word within the second or third paragraph. Because if I click on her profile and let me scroll down, you see how it highlights everything in blue?
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it came from. And the word addiction is bolded. And so that's where they grab that. So if I go back and I go to Amy, oh, same thing. See, it's in the second paragraph. Now, let's go back down because you see how this person has a whole queue of text.
Mm-hmm.
If I scroll down, what's interesting is the top is highlighted in blue, but that big bold text actually comes from this second paragraph. And I'll explain why. So you see it says expert assessment and testing, expert assessment and testing. The difference between Christopher and Amy is Christopher did not include a period, and that's it. He included all commas. So because with Psychology Today, what it's doing is it's quickly looking through your profile, and the period in grammar is a full stop. So if you notice, we have comma, 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 comma. He doesn't add a period. So from a strategy perspective, you could use that strategy where you're doing a whole bunch of commas to get a whole block of text. Now, why would someone do that? And that's assuming that Christopher knew what he was doing. I have no idea if he did. I never met Christopher. And so This is why, because if I compare Inner Warrior to Christopher has a lot more what is considered like real estate or a lot more space. So
Mhm.
that stands out to a client because he has a lot more. So clients are wondering why is this showing up? And he included the word addiction. So when you include the word addiction, it's going to highlight in yellow. So
Mhm.
today's background is white. So when you highlight something, it's going to stand out. So you have essentially three choices. You can either be like doable recovery, where you have the issue in the first four lines, so that way you can get it highlighted. Or number two, you can have it in the second or third paragraph where it will give you the italicized feature. Or second and third paragraph, but make it as a very, very long ass sentence. And so then that way it stands out. How is this for you so far?
It makes sense.
It makes sense.
Mhm.
So from here, let's look at the other issues. So the other issue is like anxiety. So see how it changes the people. So because it gives different results based on what. Now, if you might be wondering, how come these two people, Debbie and Susie, have the italicized feature, but then why? Oh, where is it? Debbie and Susie have it, but then Olivia and Elizabeth don't. The reason
Mhm.
being is because my assumption is that they included the word anxiety, but after the first four lines. So let's test it out. You see, anxiety came after. So it's like
Mm.
today you can't just cut your middle of your first paragraph to just put on top. They only put the second or third on top. And so if we go here, let's go to Elizabeth. See, she included after the first four lines.
Okay.
So we're going to look down to see if you're showing up. Like wisdom. Okay. And then the last one was, you said trauma,
Yes.
PTSD. Okay. We have same thing. So let's go look. Now you might notice, remember Amy? So see,
Mhm.
Amy shows up again. She
Right.
goes up again because she also included a secondary term. So you can show up for multiple terms, but you have to be a bit more strategic about how you go about that. So if I
Okay.
scroll down, what I'm doing is looking for you, and I don't see you. So here's the reality of the situation. Unfortunately, trauma, anxiety, and PTSD, no, trauma, anxiety, and depression tend to be the most commonly used and selected issues that therapists want to try to be found for. The
Mhm.
issue is because it's so common, it becomes so competitive. And
Mhm.
so it's going to be very challenging for you, especially like in a metropolitan area such as Austin, Texas, that you're competing against every single other person who's trying to show up for those three things. Now, granted, let's just assume that that's what you do want to be found for. Then you have to think of a different strategy. It might be that you might have to select a different location or focus on other locations. Because even though you're online or in person or both.
I'm online.
Okay. So here's the biggest piece for online folks. When you're licensed in a state, you're licensed in the entire state. You don't have
Right.
to focus on one area just because you physically live there. So you can pick and choose. So we have to think about your location. So I'm gonna look at, let's see, let's go back to yours. I'm gonna go to the bottom of your profile real quick. And so these are your areas. So clarifying question, how come you chose these specific locations?
Um, Pflugerville and Round Rock are metropolitan, or yeah, is that what you call them? They're outskirts of Austin.
They're like right, like a town or a city outside.
Right,
Okay,
right. And so yeah, I live closer to the Pflugerville Round Rock area, which is north of Austin.
okay.
So
So let's actually search this area to see whether or not you're found by any means.
okay.
And then we're gonna do round rock. I'm gonna go issues, we're gonna go addiction. So let's see. So you're not showing up there. Okay, then we're gonna go anxiety. Okay, and then we're gonna do trauma. And the reason why, just to give context, the reason why I'm not going past page 1 is because um clients have so many different options to choose from that they're going to focus on maybe like the first page, and every page has about 20 providers. And so if you're like on page 2 or 3, your chances are going to be slim. However, there might still be people who might go through because maybe someone is looking and they're like, I don't like their picture, and then they're going to go because people have their own criteria of what they're looking for. So for me,
Right.
I'm more so focused on how to get you shown more to potentially your ideal client.
Okay.
So you can be found there. So then we're going to do one more search, which is Brown Rock. And then we're going to go addiction. Okay. And then we're going to go anxiety. Okay. And then we're going to go last one is trauma. And then we're going to finally look at your profile and start editing it. I just want to ensure that you're not showing up at all.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So let's go back. So here is my, after I've seen so many profiles that I've decided I needed to find a way of how to simplify the whole process. Psychology Today does give you prompts, but I think even with those prompts, people still write in what I call like a clinical lens, or they
Mhm.
just are very fluffy. So here's how my stance. This first paragraph is about the client. It's not about you. It's about the client in the sense of your first 4 lines needs to, on the search results, needs to earn the click. When you earn the click, that means you have captured their emotion and their curiosity enough to be able to want to click on your profile and read more about what you have to share.
Okay.
To do that, you have to evoke their emotions. To evoke their emotions, you have to come up with at least 2 questions and a leading statement. Those
Okay.
2 questions have to be connected to who you are working with and what specific issue that they're needing help with. So let me ask you this. If we break down your ideal client, like the client that brings you passion, the client that you really, really want to work with, and you'll be so happy to get these referrals. If we start breaking them down into categories, number one, and this might be a bit challenging depending, we're gonna
Okay.
start narrowing down your niche.
Okay.
Number one is the service. You can only pick one. Individual, couples, family, or group counseling. Which service are you gonna be focusing on?
Individual.
Okay. Number two, population, only pick one. Children, teens, young adults, working professionals, couples, family, elderly, or anybody else that you want to select that I had in the list.
Working professionals.
Okay. Number 3, this has more to do with um, really fine tuning the type of person. And you can pick and choose which ones make the most sense. So you're going to do individual counseling for working professionals. And number 3 is based on demographics. So we're going to think of the census. We're going to think of the sex of this client, the gender, their relationship status, their occupation, their socioeconomic status, their education level, if they are parents, like their parental status, immigration status. So think of the census and then narrow down the characteristics of this person. So
Mhm.
what would you say? Do you have any preferences on you just want to work with women? Are you open to both? Do they have to be married, engaged, dating? What type of profession are they in? Is it open, or are you wanting to work specifically with a type of profession? Like there's some people who only work with lawyers. So
Mhm.
like from there, what would you say your criteria are?
Um, now you're getting kind of into the nitty gritty. Um, I mostly work with women. I'm open to working with men. I do have males on my client or males on my caseload, but for the most part, working women that are in some type of relationship, whether dating, engaged, or married, because I do a lot of stuff around attachment. Um, um,
So
usually,
when you say you mostly work with women, is that who you want to work with, or is that who you tend to attract?
that's who I tend to attract. I could actually say that's probably who I want to work with, but definitely more of who I tend to attract.
Okay, and so when you say women, so okay, so we have women, and so let's start narrowing that down. Is it women who are working professionals that are parents, that are in relationships, that are dating, that are single? Like, what is their whole status?
Um, in some type of relationship, from uh, ooh, most of the women that I work with are in some type of relationship status. So, um, dating, engaged, long-term relationship, married, or divorced.
Okay,
Um,
well, at least they're, like you said, they're in some sort, they're in within the spectrum of relationships.
right.
Okay, so then from there, is race and ethnicity important to you as far as your ideal client?
It's not, but I tend to attract women of color
Okay,
and queer women.
okay. And so is that transparently, is that who you want to, is that your ideal client? Like is like when that type of population of clients come to you, are you
Mhm.
excited to work with them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then as far as like occupation, like what does the occupation range, or is it similar across the board?
Oh, it ranges. I've had business owners, um, teachers, college professors, um, women who manage teams, like they're in some type of management position.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. I mean, and I have worked with college students, but most of my college students are like um in their last semester, going in or starting grad school. So if they are in college, they're kind of at the end and moving toward like grad school or in grad school.
Okay. And then we're going to, okay, so we have that bit. So it's individual counseling, working professionals, that are women working professionals. And as far as relationship, it ranges within the spectrum. Um, and it tends to be women of color, or would you say queer women?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes, I have a lot of queer women.
And then now we have to narrow down to issues. What issues do these working professional women of color deal with that they come to you that you know how to treat? Now, when I say issues, I'm not speaking on theory. I'm speaking about when they call you, what are they telling you that they're struggling with?
Um, that's such a good question. Actually, I wrote it down.
Okay.
Oh my god, that's so funny. I went to oh god, that's so funny. Um, let's see. This is so weird that I have this. Um, so a lot of like they just say trauma. So some type of um abuse in their lived experience. from childhood, or current relationships, a lot of sexual, emotional, physical abuse, um, abandonment issues, family of origin.
So with those in mind, um, so here is where I would say the rubber meets the road. So we have on your profile, you listed three different issues that you specialize in. Now,
Mhm.
in the back end of psychology today, when you go into specialties, it gives you about 75 of them that you can choose from. But
Right.
what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of those issues can't be found within the search results. So I'll show
What do
you.
you mean?
So let's just say you were working with them and they were dealing with relationship issues, and you select
Mhm.
relationship issues as like a secondary specialty or something like that. If I
Mhm.
click on issues and I click here, see more, I'm going to scroll down. Relationship issues doesn't exist.
Oh.
What else? People say coping skills. Coping skills doesn't exist.
Mm.
They might say burnout. Burnout doesn't exist. Transitional issues doesn't exist. So what that means is that we have to play within the guidelines of what Psychology Today offers. And
Okay.
so just because they offer us in the back end more selections doesn't mean that clients can find you. So with that said, we have to look through this list and identify what top three would you want to be known for. So based on your list that you just shared with me, even if we say family of origin, even family therapy by itself is not even listed here. There's
Mhm.
no family, nothing. So based on what you have, what would you want to select from? So let me actually open up this in a bit more. So I'm gonna scroll down a bit. So from here, so we already have addiction, anxiety, and trauma. My question to you now is, do you want to stick with those three, or do you want to choose something else as a replacement? And I can scroll down if you need to.
Okay. Okay. Can you scroll,
Mhm.
please? Mm, I don't know if anything else really touches on it. I'm open to suggestion if you see something.
No, no,
Because I mean, you're right
well,
in the sense of like trauma anxiety is very common.
mhm. And so here's the deal. So just to be clear, do you want to stick with those three? Is that what you feel the most comfortable? Addiction, anxiety, and trauma.
You're making me second guess. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, here's the thing. It's a profile. You can always change it later.
right.
It's more so of like, we need the foundation before we start chopping down your profile. So if,
Question.
yeah,
Sorry to interrupt. And this might sound silly, but when people see women's issues, what comes to mind?
um, it ranges. It could be uh, like their dating history. It could be um, like uh society's ideas about women and living in a
Mhm.
patriarchal notion or society. It could be feelings of like weakness or mothering or parenting, or it just ranges. It's like if I selected men's issues, like what would like
Right.
general men's issues be? And the men's issues could be what it means for that man to be like a single dad, or
Mm,
what it means for them to have to live in a very performance driven world,
mhm,
where they need to, like, their value is associated with their ability to provide and protect. And so that
Mhm.
might be something, or could go on the other spectrum of like sexual issues where they can't perform during that time, that they're struggling with like performance anxiety. And so there's a lot of criteria around that. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But I ask because I mean, I might think one way, but it's like, what are other people's ideas of, because these are very um general topics. And so yeah, I just wanted
Yeah,
to
and so what you brought a good point, which is since they are general, what we need to do on your profile is use the general terms, but then expand upon them to be more specific. Like for example, people might select anxiety, but then my question back to them is like, what type of anxiety? Are we talking about social anxiety? Are we talking about generalized anxiety? And or like we're talking about trauma. Are we talking about childhood trauma, community violence, domestic violence? Like what form of trauma
mm,
is that person dealing with? So if we're gonna start,
ooh, now you brought up something
yeah,
with the anxiety piece. Um, because when I think of anxiety, and the anxiety that I work with my clients with, usually that anxiety is related to the trauma. So it's rarely that they're just, I'm an anxious person. It's usually I have trauma, and that, anxiety is what manifests from it. So with that being said, maybe it would be trauma, addiction, and women's issues.
okay. So and be mindful. I'm going to show you like how we can still incorporate anxiety, but we just have
Okay.
to be specific. Okay, so
Okay.
now we're finally going to hit the meat and potatoes. So the
Okay.
first paragraph. So I'm going to give you first constructive feedback based on what I've read,
Okay.
and then we're going to shift it. So the first thing is you don't need to introduce yourself simply because your name is already listed there. You don't need to
Mhm.
put your license because your license is there. So that's just
Mhm.
moving up space.
Mhm.
Remember, the first paragraph is all about the client evoking emotions from them. And the second part is once they click on your profile, it's to offer them hope. Offer them
Mhm.
hope is done so with the use of certain pronouns such as we, us, or together. Because you're trying to share with them that you're going to be almost like a guiding force with them during their healing journey.
Mhm.
What we also don't want to do is what I tend to see is people tend to write in very fluffy language. And so fluffy
Right.
language is like, I offer non-judgmental space. And I'm like, people don't fucking talk that way. And so we like we need to back up
Right.
from this whole therapeutic talk and just speak to them as people. Like you
Right.
don't go to a party and tell people, oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, I help people go through the path of life and healing journey. No, like like you tell them
Right.
exactly what it is you do. Oh, I help women who are struggling with anxiety. So that's
Right.
what we have to come across. So when it comes to marketing, I think people struggle with the idea of like, you're just being direct. You don't have to like fluff it up. But I think they
Yeah.
fluff it up because they think that that's what we're supposed to do. So with
Mhm.
that, we're going to rearrange this.
Okay.
So we're going to rearrange this entire paragraph because here's what I see. I see I like to engage in deep conversations. I will challenge. The sad part is, um, okay, so I'm gonna say it. Clients don't give two shits about you because they don't know you
Right.
yet. They
Right.
haven't built a relationship with you. And so your goal is to build that relationship through showcasing your expertise.
Okay.
So with that, we're going to restructure this. Now, you have a choice. I don't know if you want to type it up or if you're able to log in or you just want to write it down as we're talking through.
Okay. I'll write it because yeah,
Yeah.
I'll write it.
So here's what we're gonna do. We're not gonna think of this right now. We're just gonna think through your ideal client. Your ideal client
Mhm.
is a working professional woman who's struggling with some trauma and or other women's issues. So the first sentence needs to be a question. Uh, it could be a statement if you want to, but I normally start it off with a question. That
Okay.
question has to indicate two things. What is the problem and what is the reason why that problem exists? So let's just say,
Ooh.
and I'll give you an example from my I'll actually open mine up to give you a clear example of what I mean. So here, this is my first question. Thinking of breaking up or filing for divorce after discovering your partner's infidelity. This is the problem, and this is the reason why that problem has occurred.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're thinking about trauma, women's issues, and what was the other one? No,
Anxiety or addiction.
addiction.
Mm-hmm.
So the first question has to be connected to what is the identified problem, addiction, women's issues, or trauma, and then why that problem exists.
Mm-hmm.
So then let's think that through. Think about your clients and think about what they have said. And I can give you like a quick example. Um, have you experienced a traumatic event um, due to blah, blah, blah? Or
Mm-hmm.
um, are you struggling to focus at work because you can't stop thinking about the sexual assault, for example?
Mm-hmm.
So that's very direct, and it's very like, for some people, it's, oh, that's a lot to like to say, but you have to understand when people are reading this, that's their experience. So if they think
Right.
you're speaking to them, they're going to want to click on it. So then my
Mm-hmm.
question to you is, what are some of the traumas that people have shared with you, or what are the common traumas that people have shared with you that we can create this sentence
Um, okay, let me go back to okay, can I talk it out with you?
Yeah, yeah.
Like okay. So one of the I guess how a lot of my clients present um is they're having big responses to their current situation um and they don't understand why. Like, why am I responding this way? Like I'm don't feel like myself. And the kind of what I do, right, is like, sorry, I'm trying to think this out.
Well, yeah, let's slow it down. Let's go based on what you just said.
Hmm.
You can create a question off that. Do you find yourself responding in ways at work or home that does not represent who you are?
Oh, I love that.
Because and all we're doing is going based on what you just said, because
Hmm.
that reflects what your clients have said. Now, that's the first question. We can use that as a current question, as a temporary question, because we're going to go on to the second question. Now,
Uh-huh.
the second question, I want you to be strategic. We need to incorporate either women's issues, the word women's issues, trauma, or I keep on forgetting the other one,
Addiction.
addiction.
Hmm.
So we need to incorporate one of them because I want you to be able to at least get that highlight in some way.
Hmm.
So in order to get that highlight, we need to include that word. So the first question we have, the second question has to be very specific. And so
Uh-huh.
which one of those terms do you want to use?
Let's use trauma.
Okay. And so now let's go back to how you were thinking out loud. Let's go back to
Okay.
that. And then
Okay.
I want you to continue saying what you were saying.
Okay. Okay, sorry. You want me to continue what I was saying?
Yeah, yeah. You were saying that these women have like these big responses, and then when they meet with
Hmm.
you, what what sorts of trauma have they shared with you as far as like childhood trauma, sexual trauma,
Hmm.
relationship trauma? Like what is the common ones, or what's the traumatic event that you are more skillful at sifting through? Because some people might say trauma in general, but that's too broad.
Hmm.
And so we want to make it a bit more fine-tuned. Even
Hmm.
childhood trauma is still broad because what does that mean? Is that domestic violence, or is that community violence? Is that sexual
Hmm.
assault? Like, so the question essentially to you would be, what specific trauma would they share with you that you feel confident based on your training and your experience to be able to help them with?
Hmm. Um, ooh. So what specific trauma? Okay, so there has sexual trauma. All right, I'm gonna say this and then help me work it out.
Yeah.
It's the trauma of attachment wounds, if that makes sense. So, the trauma of, ugh,
So like if you're speaking to an accountant, what is attachment?
right, that they don't know. So I guess I'll just keep it simple. So, yeah, childhood trauma, relationship trauma. I think relationship trauma will probably hit most. So relationship trauma.
Okay, so so let's break even that one down. So when you're saying relationship trauma, people might
Mhm.
assume that that's connected to intimate relationships
Intimate relationships.
as opposed to parental relationships, as
Right.
opposed to friendships. So what type of relationship?
You're asking me such good questions, and I don't want to narrow it down that much. Um,
Well, here's the thing, if you want to transition to private pay, this is part of that work.
right,
Because
right.
you have to narrow it down because you're speaking to a core audience. Now, granted, I want to make it clear to you and whoever's watching this, is that you can always at any given time change up your profile. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, like, you still need to have this baseline of like, let's just say, because you mentioned that you're also with Therapy for Black Girls, that profile.
Correct.
And so one thing I would say is, um, you have to consider you can always do what is called A/B testing. And so in marketing, A/B testing is where you test out one profile. Like let's just say A/B testing in terms of therapy directories. You can
Mm-hmm.
have different directories. There's different types. Psychology Today is just one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You can use this profile to gear towards those dealing with relationship trauma, and we'll even go specific. But then you can have another profile dealing with childhood trauma. And what
Right.
you do is within a month, you'll see your data. Am I getting more referrals from one than the other? And
Mm-hmm.
then you can always switch profiles. So that's how you do A/B testing to figure out which one gravitates more to the core audience that I want to attract. So,
Okay.
so what that means is even I don't want you to feel like you're pigeonholed.
Mm-hmm.
But this is more so like to give you an idea of like how you can go about it. So,
Okay.
okay, so then going back to the relationship trauma, who,
Okay.
like what part of the relationship that they've experienced, and this is connected to the attachment wounds. Because when I think of attachment wounds, I'm thinking of either someone who has a horrible dating experience and they struggle with attaching to their partner, and so they
Mm-hmm.
run away or get upset, or it has more to do with like parental attachment, where
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't really attach very well, and that then transitions or transfers onto their intimate relationships.
Right. That the second part is more it. So looking back at like my list, um, I think I think I want to go to childhood trauma.
Childhood trauma.
Um, because looking at what I kind of like jotted down is like client themes and things. Um, yeah, there's a lot of like family, childhood, childhood. Yeah.
Okay. So then the next sentence, we could start it off with something along the line, and this is just off the top of my head.
Hmm.
Um, do you believe that your experience of potential childhood trauma has affected how you are with others today?
Hmm.
How do you feel about that?
I like it. I'll tweak it, but I like it.
Yeah.
I like it, like where it's going for sure.
So now the third sentence is what I call a leading statement. The reason why it's called a leading statement is because if we go back to the search results here, you see where it only gives you the first 4 lines and then you have the dot, dot, dot.
Hmm.
English grammar, this is called the ellipsis. The
Hmm.
ellipsis, the job of it is to create curiosity in the reader to want to know more. And
Okay.
so for me, let's go and show you what it looks like in real time. I think it might be on like page 3 or something, just without like using the filters. So let me skip through. Where am I? Pushing me farther apart. But I'm not concerned because this is not how I want to be found. Okay. So my third going to fourth line says, if you're struggling to heal from the fear, now might be the time, dot, dot, dot. So my hope is that the sentence is long enough that when someone reads it, they're thinking now might be the time for what? Like, what is it the time for? And so that when they click on it and then they read it, it would say, now might be the time to connect with a therapist who can help. So your goal is to create that third sentence long enough so that that way it gets cut off and it creates that sense of curiosity. So, so here, the way I would do it is similar to what you've seen the structure of the first two questions, is that it's divided into two segments. So the first one is identifying what they're struggling with as it relates to your main issues that you want to be found for. And then offering, this is where we're transitioning to offering a sense of hope. So you can borrow from mine if you wanted to, just for the sake of time. So,
Excuse me.
oh, that's it.
Thank you.
So from here, we're indicating to the person that they are not being themselves. We've identified that they could be struggling with the effects of childhood trauma. And so this part then comes in of, we divide it into two segments. What is it that you want to reconfirm their struggle and then offer that sense of hope? So it might be like, if you're struggling to, let's say, if you're struggling to cope with this type of trauma, comma, now might be the time to connect with a therapist who can help. And again, we're just borrowing from mine for the sake of time. But how do you feel about that?
I like that. And it
Well,
sounds a lot more inviting than here's my short resume.
that's the thing. You're not the first and only one that does like a short resume. I think my understanding is that that's how we were taught of how to market ourselves. Like you market yourself in trying to apply for employment based on your credentials, because that's different. But in private practice, clients don't give two shits about your credentials. They understand that you're a professional. They want to know, what can you offer me as value of hope, or what type of support can you give me that can help me? So then we'll use that in the interim. The rest of the paragraph is including more of that hope. So that's where we're going to start the fourth sentence saying, we will work together. And then this is where I'm going to need your help with. You're going to work with them together to do what? And so we need to understand, like, what is it that you're going to do for them? So for me, mine says, let us work together to develop a recovery plan that can offer you some reassurance that your relationship is actually salvageable. So, and this is based on my theme. My theme is they discover someone cheating. They're dealing with crying about it, because they're reflecting so much about it, and they're struggling to, like, how to heal from that wound of betrayal. You here, when I say develop a recovery plan, is to offer them some sort of tangibility within our service. Because for our service, it's not like we can say, oh, here's the water. If this is tangible. So to me, I'm saying a recovery plan. So that might be a bit more tangible for them to hold on to, as instead of like treatment plan, for example, because I want to get away from clinical jargon. So for you, if let's just say we say, let us work together too, what would you be actually doing? What would you do for them or with them?
Finding, I mean, honestly, it's like finding I'm trying not to use jargon.
Well, why don't we use jargon now and then maybe we can turn it like shift it into like layman's terms.
Okay. Like some of the things that like I've said or whatever is like creating a life that you no longer want to escape from, or being able to respond in a way that feels more authentic. Um Having an understanding of where it comes from so that you're no longer trapped like by the past, right? Like you're responding in a way that's
So
like
let's go with that. Let us work together so we could explore how these past circumstances keeps you trapped in, and then how else you want to like end it.
Mhm. Okay.
How do you feel about that?
I like it. It takes a lot of what I think, and puts it into more simple words because I'm a jargon person. Like I talk in cursive at times. Um so this is helpful to like simplify it for sure.
And then from there, again, you can end it in however way you want. From there,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the character limit, because it's not until you type it up and you realize like how many characters are left for you to type in, you can either create one longer sentence or create two sentences that are a bit shorter. So for
Okay.
me, my last sentence is a bit longer. As you can see, it's like 4 lines. But this
Mm-hmm.
is continue reading to learn how booking a couples therapy session today is the best yet most difficult decision that you'll ever make for your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
There were like two purposes for this. One, if you've had psychology today before, like before May of 2023, you would know that the design of the profile looks very different.
Mm-hmm.
Design of the profile before was a 3 paragraphs and then a video and picture. Here, as
Mm-hmm.
soon as you upload something, it cuts the paragraph in half. And so I put continue reading because I wanted to instruct them like you got to get past the pictures and photos, um,
Okay.
past the pictures and video to get to the next section.
Okay.
The other, I wanted to be realistic. I wanted to acknowledge that it is difficult to be able to book a session because that person has to acknowledge we are going through issues right now and we're going to
Mm-hmm.
need some sort of support. So you can decide either to do something similar to that or end it in a way that continues to offer hope.
Okay.
Um, and that offering hope is again the languaging, the we, us are together. So if we already said let us work together, then use the pronoun of we for this next sentence.
Okay.
We will work on, and then that's where you're going to identify what is it that they're working on. We will work on uh, creating space for you to think, reflect, and talk about these experiences so then that way you're not stuck in your head, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole purpose of that. Now we're about to jump into the second paragraph. How do you feel about the first paragraph as so far what we created?
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Yeah,
What
I
do you
like
love
it.
about it? What do you love about it specifically?
It it's the emotional like evoking, like it just speaks straight to what their issue is. And so I can see how if someone's searching for a therapist, um, it literally just speaks straight to them. So it draws them in. That it sounds a lot more inviting than, hey, I'm Brittany, right? Like it just sounds more inviting. Um, and like starting it with questions, it's almost like they read it and they're like answering it as they're reading it, right? Like, do you find yourself responding to work or home in a way that you don't feel like yourself? Yes, I do. Right? Do you feel like your childhood trauma affects your relationships today? I think they do. Right? And so it kind of just invites them more to read and like, okay, she kind of gets me.
Yeah, because I find that a lot of therapists, when they're seeing other people's profiles, some people would tell me like, well, I don't want to put a question that's corny. Like, I don't want to do that because everybody else is doing it. but you have to think about what is the purpose. Like
Mhm.
we have to have intent and purpose. Just like in counseling, we have intent in every single question we're asking. It's guided
Right.
by our training, the theory. So there's a purpose for it. And so it's not that it's corny, it's just that it has to be delivered in a way that captures their attention and captures
Mhm.
emotions. So we're going to go to the second paragraph. Now, the second
Okay.
paragraph, I already see that we're going to cut it out because what you did was okay, let me ask you a genuine question. How
Mhm.
many people in your caseload have spoken to you about they chose you because of theory?
None of them.
None of them. So,
Well, I mean, EMDR, like people will be like, "Oh, I want to do EMDR," but I think also that's a buzzword.
okay.
You know what I mean? But so for the most part, like
So
no.
let me backtrack. For those folks who have said, I'm looking for AMDR, how did they learn about it?
Learn about EMDR.
Yeah, like how come they're saying, oh, do you do EMDR? I see you do EMDR. How did they learn about it?
Either from an like past therapy or um somebody told them, "Hey, you should do EMDR." And then they just start looking for someone, but it's not very few clients really like know and understand unless they've already had EMDR before.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask that intentionally because what I come across a lot from folks is there are specific markets, meaning locations, um, where people are actively looking for a therapist that knows a particular theory or particular way of treatment, but they're
Mhm.
the exception, they're not the rule. The
Right.
rule is your everyday client doesn't know any of this. So when you
Mhm.
share these things, the concern that I have is if people don't know what this is, they might just highlight it and copy and go to another window and research it, or you lose them because
Right.
the second paragraph is what I call you give value. You give value not based on your credentials or your theoretical framework, but you give value based on being very straightforward on identifying two things. One, identify who you help, meaning like what is your area of specialty? And then the second part of that paragraph is identifying how you help them. So I'll use mine for the sake of example, and then we're gonna fine tune yours.
Okay.
Um, let me go down. Oh, so here, first sentence, the who I specialize in. With 13 years plus years of marriage counseling experience, I
Mhm.
specialize in helping couples repair trust, resolve communication issues, and rebuild intimacy due to infidelity. So again, I'm focusing on infidelity, cheating, betrayal. That's all I focus on. Second is how I help. We'll work together on how to forgive your unfaithful partner or spouse, improve trust after discovering the affairs, plus lessen signs of anxiety and depression as a result of the betrayal.
Mhm.
So that's what let me ask you instead of like imposing anything, who am I marketing to?
Couples where
Couple.
somebody has cheated.
Yeah, and so it's very plain straightforward. Can I work with other couples like who are struggling with premarital issues or communication issues? Yes, but my target audience is couples in crisis, specifically dealing with infidelity. So that's
Okay.
what we're gonna do for yours. So your first sentence needs to identify. You can choose if you want to put your years of experience. I tend to see and notice that years of experience tends to equate to like wisdom or this wealth
Mhm.
of knowledge. So if let's just say, well, how many years have you been doing clinical work?
Um, I'm glad that you asked that because I have a question about that.
Mhm.
When I put my years of experience. So, I started in the counseling field as an addictions counselor. And so I did that for years before I went back and got my master's.
Okay.
And so there's some weird timing. Um, I mean, there's like a 4-year gap between like when I started counseling and then when I got my master's. So on here, I think I said like 12 plus years. Um, or like 10 plus years or 12 years. And then, but when you look at my school, like when I graduated, it says 2016. So what should, like, how do I clarify that? Like, how do I,
Yeah,
yeah,
you have two choices. You can either put the number or you can put words. Words would be like after several years of clinical training
okay,
versus a specific number. Because if
okay,
you're worried that any client can Google you and then they look at your like LinkedIn profile and look at
hmm,
your credentials, they're like, that doesn't make sense. Like, how does she have 10 years? But people may not realize like that might be 10 years in totality, and you
hmm,
can also say 10 plus years of professional experience. So it's
okay,
not about the word. So you can say
okay,
professional experience, clinical experience. You can just say several years or after a few years of experience. So you can dictate how you want it to come across. And so
okay,
once we have that clear, the next part is you need to identify what you're specializing in. So for me, I was very clear here that I say with 13 years of marriage counseling experience, the reason why I did marriage counseling is because that is a term that I want to be found for. So
hmm,
remember how we already used trauma? So now this is where we can enter in women's issues. And
okay,
so this is where, if you wanted to, you can say after blah, blah, blah years of experience, I specialize in women's issues such as, and then we break them down. Because in that way, we're identifying your ideal client, which is the women for working professionals. Because then men could still see this, but then as soon as they see that what your specialty is, then they're going to back out because they realize this is not going to be a good fit. And that's
hmm,
fine because it's your practice. You get to decide who you want to help.
hmm,
Or we can say, I specialize in women's issues such as, and this is where people get caught up with the holistical piece, where you're just like,
hmm,
that's anxiety, comma, depression, comma. What I say is you can use a listicle, but add context. So let's just say you want to be found for addiction,
hmm,
or you want to be found for anxiety. You can say women's issues such as those who struggle with addiction, comma, um, uh, dealing with anxiety that interferes with their work performance, comma. So that's context. So then I'll
hmm.
ask you, what is the context that you want to add? What is the specialty?
Um, you're asking me that now?
Yep.
Okay. So, um, okay, so 12 plus years of experience, working with women's issues such as, I like what you said, anxiety. How did you word it? Anxiety that shows
That
up
anxiety that shows up at work that
at work.
interferes with your performance.
Hmm. Um, so that, um, women who are in, uh,
Just out of curiosity, because I've been noticing this. Does your camera follow you?
yeah, it's my like my iPad. It is the best cameraman.
Okay.
It'll like zoom in and out, and like if you
Because in my
move, it
mind,
like
I've been noticing it. I'm like, I feel like I'm fucking crazy. And I'm like, I feel like whoever's watching this, they're gonna be saying the same thing. And I'm like, nah, I gotta ask her. Okay.
no, that's it's the iPad.
Okay.
It'll
Um,
like tilt and everything. Like it's a little weird, but um, okay. So yeah, women's issues. The context of anxiety would be, you know, anxiety that's interfering with um work and home. Um,
because we already said in the beginning, um, the work and home piece. So here
okay,
we gotta be more specific. So like
okay,
that's why I had proposed the idea, the suggestion of um anxiety that shows up at work that gets in the way of your performance. Uh,
okay,
and then so that's one issue. Then we need a second one, which is the addiction piece. Do you want to add addiction here?
No.
Okay, so we're taking addiction out.
Yes.
Okay,
Wait, question. What do you mean
yeah.
taking it out?
So meaning like did we even bring up addiction in the beginning? So we brought up trauma.
We have.
We're bringing up women's issues and we're bringing up
Hmm.
so that means we're taking out addiction out of the whole equation. Like we're not even trying to show up for addiction.
Okay.
So that's what I'm asking. Are we taking that out? Like, do you want to work with those who struggle with addiction?
So this is okay. That's a great question. Yes, and
Okay.
um, yes, because that's been my like field, like my history. That's where all my contacts are. Um, and so there's a piece that I still work in that field and I get a lot of referrals, but like when the referrals come to me, we're not really talking about the addiction piece, if that makes sense. Like we're not talking about like we can, but usually by the time they get to me, they've already been through treatment. And so they have, their 12-step work that they're doing. They have their sponsor. I have the knowledge to be able to talk to them. But by the time they come to me, it's because like they need trauma therapy.
Okay. So then let's write it in the way that where they're at, which is
Okay.
um um let's see, let's go back to the first part of the sentence. After such and such blah 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 years, I specialize in women's issues such as helping those that are suffering from anxiety that shows up at work that gets in the way of their performance, comma,
Mm-hmm.
those that are in recovery from addiction where they now have to address their past traumas
Ah.
and then comma, because that's where in my mind, as I'm hearing you, I'm thinking we have to go to where they're at. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
don't want, if you're noticing that the trend is they're not coming to you for addiction help, they're coming at the after effect. So then that
Mm-hmm.
way we're capturing them where they're at, which is they're
Uh-huh.
coming to you to address things that we're not able to address during their recovery process.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So then
You were so helpful. I just want to throw that out there. You were so good.
I just want to let the audience know that was like organic. I'm not paying her to say any of this. So,
No,
um,
but that's really helpful because earlier you used the word like pigeonholed, and I think for a while I felt pigeonholed in like addiction
mm,
when like my passion is really like the trauma and the anxiety and the other things, but how you come to me is from addiction. You know
mm,
what I'm saying? And so I think wording it that way really speaks to, like you said, where they are and who I want, right? Because I don't really want people that are still struggling and need to go to treatment because I'm gonna tell you need to go to treatment and then come see me. So thank you for that.
now we have to end the sentence. So we need to
Uh-huh.
add like one more thing. Um, um, so we let me think. Is there anything else that you can think about as far as what you want to be known as a specialty on? Because there was one aspect that we didn't fully get addressed that I want to bring back up is this notion of like the women of color and the queer population. Like,
Hmm.
is that important to include in this section? Like, do you identify yourself as having some sort of insight, knowledge, or expertise within that population and community?
Yes.
Okay, and so what
Um,
what sort of let's pause on like what the sentence is going to be and let's just focus on what is that insight, like what would you want to say?
um, what is the insight? Okay, well, this is another talk it out. So a lot of the women that come to me are Black women of color. and or queer.
Mhm.
And they come to me because I don't like, there's a lot of like nuanced things that they don't have to explain. And so there's a level of comfort um because, you know, experiencing trauma as a queer woman is nuanced. Experiencing trauma as a Black woman is nuanced. Like experiencing trauma as a woman of color is there's a different experience that a lot of clients who have even gone to white therapists have come to me and said, like, I found you because you were Black. Even some of my white queer clients have like, I've come to you because you're Black. Like, there's a level of, I don't really know, like it's just different.
So
There's a
let's see if we can use that. Let's see if we can use
okay.
that. We can say the last one, and women who identify as Black, comma, queer, comma, or a person of color
Mm-hmm.
who um who needs or requires, I'm still thinking through, who needs
Mm-hmm.
requires someone that can understand their lived experience
Mm-hmm.
without extra explanation.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Because
Yeah.
what I want to do is I want to connect to that ideology of they're coming to you because they feel as though there might be some lived experience I'm going through that you, just because of who you are or what you
Mm-hmm.
like, I feel as though we both can like connect.
Right.
So that's the first part. Now, granted, as you're typing it, we might notice because the second paragraph is much shorter than the first one. So we'll assess it afterwards. Like you'll assess, like, do I have to cut down? And when you cut down, what we're cutting down is like the extra words. Like instead
Right.
of being that, we'll take that out.
Okay.
Instead of the word and, we'll put I forgot how to pronounce it, the ampersand. The,
Yeah.
I don't,
The and sign.
the and sign. I don't know, I'm like messing it up. But like that, like doing it like that, so that way we can save
Right.
some more characters. Now,
Right.
the second sentence, if you have more space for a second sentence, this is where you go into like the how you help. So you have narrative, EMDR, trauma, yoga, the Darwin way, CBT, CPT or DBT. So you have all of these theories. How do we then share what is it that you do with these theories? So like I've studied immensely narrative. So I can say something along the line of the way I help is I help people um, uh, distance themselves from the problem rather than them being the problem. Because the quotes this is like people are people, problems are problems, but people are still in relationship to their problems. So they have to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what do they want to do in that relationship. Because some people might struggle with depression, but they can't go about their lives without knowing what depression, what it looks like without depression. So it's not like, oh, we're getting rid of depression because they don't know what that means. It could
Right.
be like, how do we create distance from it? So now this is like the how. How can you help? So if you were, so take all these theories
Mm-hmm.
and say in two ways, what do you do? Like as a therapist, what do you do to help these folks recover from this trauma?
What do I do? Um
And do not say you offer a non-judgmental, safe space. Like, please don't, like,
I
I try.
offer a safe space to be your authentic self. No, really, I help them connect the dots. I help connect the dots between um like their past lived experiences so that they can show up like, I want to say as their authentic self, but like in DBT, how do they say it? A mindful response.
And then
Um,
for your accountant, they might not know what mindful is.
right. And it's so funny because I literally had to walk my accountant through what I do and had to break it down and explain. He's like, "What does that mean?" Um, what do I help them do? I mean, it really is like finding an understanding. It's not a reckoning with the past. I mean, it kind of is a reckoning with the past.
And so let's go with that. I help these women find an understanding of why their past impacts their current and their potential future. Something like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then the next would be, and we'll work together towards, um, we'll work together towards finding finding ways to take back control of your life.
Okay.
Okay. So that's something simple.
Uh-huh.
Um, so then we'll keep it as that, only because I'm imagining the first part might be a bit longer because of how we were describing and wording it. I'm just
Uh-huh.
concerned we're going to be running out of characters.
Okay.
Now, finally, the last paragraph is what I call your call to action. The reason
Okay.
why it's a call to action is because a call to action means you're telling someone to do something. And your
Mhm.
role in psychology today is to either do one of two things. One, convince them to submit a request, or two, get them to your website to learn more about you. That's the only two things you would want to gain out of this whole process. So normally what I do is I would say, submit your request here on Psychology Today or visit my website to schedule a consultation call. Very
Mhm.
straightforward, matter of fact, simply because if people are reviewing different profiles, they're skimming it. They're not
Mhm.
really reading it because there's so much content to read. So as soon as you get there and they're convinced so far based on the two paragraphs, then you're gonna tell them what they need to do. So my
Okay.
recommendation is use something similar to that. The first sentence could be, um, if and when you're ready to get help, submit your request here on Psychology Today or visit my website to learn more information. Now,
Mhm.
in your private pay, your website should offer some sort of consultation because some people, not all, but just some people are worried about like committing to the process. So some people might require like some sort of call because they need to like sift out. Half the battle is getting them to call you or contact you, and then the other half is getting them in like butts to seats. Like they need to,
Right.
even if it's online, like that's the other half is to convince them to actually hire you. So
Mhm.
the rest of the paragraph is all logistics. You could have a transitional statement like I have here. Let's work together and make a difference in your relationship. So you can say, let's work together and make a difference in your life.
Mhm.
Everything else is just logistics. So mine's I've turned self-pay. Please note, health insurance is not accepted. I do that to limit how many people are going to ask me about insurance. And then my services are self-pay only. I put the price simply because even though the price is here, people have the tendency in the Western culture to read left to right. And so they're mostly reading that. They might go over here because you also have to count some people are going to have their eyes here, but most
Okay.
of them are focused on the paragraph.
Okay.
And now, since you accept insurance, you can indicate like, I accept these insurances, and my fee is this. And then
Okay.
indicate like, if you don't have those insurances, my fee is this, and you put in parentheses like what the number is. And if you're online only, you indicate that here as well. Like
Okay.
all sessions are online only, and then you can put like what days and times you offer the service. So that's why I said I offer online Monday and Tuesday at this time, and in person Saturday at this time.
Okay.
So even though technically it could be written here, but I put it here because most folks are just skimming. Now, that's your personal statement.
Okay.
There are other things I want to quickly go by, which is your photos. So what we're missing here is a video. And how come you haven't put a video in?
I don't. I just didn't yet.
Okay. So the reason
I'm a
why,
little nervous, to be honest.
well, why would you be
Pictures
nervous?
are fine. Videos just feel a bit more vulnerable.
Well, that makes sense. Not a lot of people like, well, like you mentioned that you've seen the videos I post on YouTube.
Mhm.
What most people don't realize when I'm posting those videos is you don't see the sweat stains like from underneath because I tell people I would say I would identify more as like an introvert that has like extroverted desires. Like I really
Mhm.
appreciate and value people that have the gift of the gab. And I really feel like I wish I had that. But like if I have to do any sort of like speaking thing, like public speaking, I'm nervous as hell. Like even
Mhm.
in front of like a camera that doesn't talk back, I'm nervous because I know it's capturing me. And part of
Mhm.
me is like, I don't want to look stupid. And
Yeah.
so but with a lot, that's why I sit like this and I'm like, I don't do all this because then you're gonna see all the sweat stains. Um, so here's my recommendation. When we go look at the search results, when we're looking at the search results from a marketing perspective, you have to consider that people consume information differently. Some people consume it by reading it, and then some people consume it by watching it. This is why
Okay.
Psychology Today creates like these little bubbles. Because if a client scrolls down and they see that, they might just want to touch it and be like, oh, let me see the person's video. And so, and they have the opportunity to like switch to next videos and see. Because sometimes people might say, I don't care what they wrote. If I can connect with them visually and I hear them, maybe I can understand their personality and then I'll read their stuff. So
Okay.
what I explain to people is it says right here, 15 seconds. I've tested it. You can do up to 19 seconds. And it's only 6 things you got to cover. A greeting, hello, a sense of appreciation. Thank you so much for stopping by my profile. Thank you so much for clicking on my profile. A brief introduction. My name is Brittany, and I'm a licensed such and such. Number 4, identify who you help. I specialize in helping working professional women who are struggling with past traumas. Number 5 is identify the how you help. I help these women uh, take control of symptoms such as anxiety, um, poor work performance, and those who identify as Black, queer, or women of color who feel like they need someone to connect with. And then you end it with a call to action. Um, feel free to connect with me by submitting a request here on Psychology Today, and hopefully we get a chance to work with each other. And then that's it. Now, the kicker is you're going to use your phone um, vertical, not horizontal.
Okay.
When you're doing it, you want to make sure that you're like, I like where you're sitting at because it seems as though I'm going to assume based on the lighting that the window's in front of you. So
Yes.
you're getting some natural light, and that's what I need from you. And that's what I've learned through like doing videos is you need some sort of light on you. You don't want the light behind you because then they'll darken the image in the camera.
Mhm.
You press record, you're looking directly at the camera and you memorize your scripts and you just continue. Because when I press the camera, when I'm doing these videos, especially this training, I'm not getting up and shutting it off because I said, fuck, I got fucked up. I know the camera's still rolling. So I have the ability to edit all of that. Any mistakes I made, I can edit all of that. So when you press record, you calm down. So one thing I do is right before I'm about to say a statement, like I smile because I need to like be in that space. Now, granted, the this course, I'm a bit more mellow in comparison to the YouTube videos because I realized
Mhm.
I had to record 6 hours of content. So I can't be like,
Mhm.
like I can't,
Right.
that's just too much shit. Like I can't. I'm like, so people might be like, why is he like this versus like YouTube? Because I'm like, because you can't be hyped up like that for like 6 hours.
Right.
So,
Right.
so what I would suggest you do is you smile and then you say your statement. Say you meant your statement. If you mess up, just redo it again because the camera's
Mhm.
still rolling. And so you do it until the last one you do feels perfect. Then you press stop. But then when you go edit it, regardless if it's iPhone or Android, what I want you to do is edit everything before as until you started your scripts and you edit out this part. I hate when people like press the stop because it's you want it to be flowing.
Right.
And you practice it before you say it on the camera, whereby you make sure that it's less than 19 seconds. Because the last thing you want is you stop it, it's perfect, but then you got cut off. And so that's what you want.
Okay.
So that's the video. As far as your profile picture, I'm perfectly fine. It's lovely because I appreciate the pop of color, and you're looking at the camera and you're smiling with your teeth. Because you have some people that go like, and like that doesn't connect well. And I appreciate the nature in the background, because this, when you look at it from like a competition perspective, like when I'm looking through the results, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for that what is called a professional headshot. So like this is more inviting. One thing is a pet peeve of mine, which is like don't use a dog unless the dog is part of your service, like a therapeutic support animal, because it's not a dating app. Like we're not trying to convince people to like us. And so you just look at your competitors to see like here, like I get the allure of this, but you're looking away from the camera and people want to connect to people. So I don't have an issue with that. Let's see. You don't necessarily, if you felt like you needed to put there, that's fine, but only put pictures like, unless you are convincing people that you um are like a designer of some sort. I get the aesthetic of this, but does this represent your practice? So if it does, meaning like you incorporate this in your practice, I would rather you be sitting here on the pillows, looking at the camera instead of the pillows by itself. Now,
Okay.
granted, yes, does it look beautiful and stands out to me? But it does. But I don't, as a business coach, I have no idea what does that have to do with your service, unless
Okay.
like you're incorporating that. Like here, I can assume that that needs to be incorporated in your service. But because we've just rewrote your paragraph, we didn't include that. So we could, if you feel like that's part of your treatment, you could add it on to the second paragraph, where you can include like I I specialize, no, I help, we will work together through the use of meditation, yoga strategies, and so forth as a way to help you become like the best version of yourself or something like that. Let me look at your other photos. So yeah, so if this is your space, I want like I want you to be in it. Like that would represent like, because I can see it right now. I can see the background. So I would rather have you here as a representation and since you're online only, I want you to take this same photo, but you in front of the laptop. So you
Okay.
can, so then that way that gives a visual representation for those who are doing online sessions only, like what
Okay.
they can expect as a background.
Okay.
Oh, let me go here. And lastly, um, your endorsements. So endorsements are basically like peer-to-peer reviews, or testimonials. One thing that you want to be able to do is you want at least 3 endorsements of people who actually wrote something about you. Now, the people you choose can be anybody as long as they have a profile. But what you want to do is use strategy. Like, for example, let me go back. So let's go back to, remember how I'm on page, what page is this? I was
I
on
think
page
you're like
6.
5, 6.
Yeah, so I'm on page 6. So let's go back to 1. So remember, that's not how I want people to find me. So if I go issues and I go more issues, I do
When you
infidelity.
say that that's not how you want people to find you, what do you mean? Like your psychology today is not really how you want people to find you?
No,
Or
I don't want people to have to go through each and every page just to find me.
oh, okay.
Because that's the browser. So
Right,
I
right.
want the buyer. So if I want the buyer, I made sure to include infidelity. So if I include infidelity, I pop up. So I'm the
Mm,
first one.
mm,
So
mm,
why would you go all the way to page 6 when I'm here? So remember, the infidelity piece is highlighted. Another part is when you're thinking about your terms, start looking at what other terms are highlighted as well. So like for example, cheating is highlighted. And then I found other people's affairs are highlighted, betrayal is highlighted. So those are synonyms that are connected to your main issue. So what you want to do is
mm,
take time, type up, like look at anxiety and see what other words are highlighted, and then you can incorporate that so you can have more of a highlight, because that
okay.
reemphasizes your expertise and credibility. Now, when I click on it, when I'm looking, I started noticing this, which is the blue highlight. The blue highlight shows up here because it's infidelity. When I scroll down, it shows up here again. So under qualifications. So to me, I felt like, okay, if it shows up again, that means it's reinforcing my expertise. And then lastly, and endorsements, it shows up. Infidelity, betrayal, infidelity. So I tested it. I asked these two colleagues, I said, can you leave me an endorsement, but include those words to see if it shows up? And then it does. So that again, it reinforces your credibility and authority in the issues you want to be found. The reason why I say 3 is because on desktop, it shows up to 3 folks. You still have to like move through, but on the phone, it only shows 1 at a time. So that's why I tell people at least get 3.
Okay.
So those are things that I would want you to work towards, which
Okay.
is get a video, get 3 more endorsements, or you ask that person to include some text. So then that way it has more value.
Okay.
And I want you to also start thinking about locations. So since you're online only, I want you to do some proper research. You can think about what areas you want to try to be found for. Fix your profile first. Figure out what areas you want to be found for. And then when you choose that area, filter the results to see if you're showing up on the first page, because that's
Okay.
what's most important. You want to be able to be on that first page for that particular issue.
Okay.
Women's issues, I don't know if a lot of people are selecting that. Let's see. Women's issues. And you want to make sure it's written that way. You have to have the apostrophe. So if I scroll down, women's issues, women's. So yeah, so I want, so there are folks who are selecting it. Like again, if you select it, it's in the bottom. And what you want to do also is just like, because of the women's issues piece, you want to read some of theirs to see how did they best incorporate it.
Okay.
So women's issues, it seems as though a good chunk of folks are using it. So you have an opportunity potentially to show up for that term. But again, you want to go based on location. If it's
Okay.
a metropolitan area, and let's just say, what's another one? Houston. Let's go Houston. Let's go women's issues. What I'm looking for is when does it stop? Meaning like no one else has included the word itself. Because what you'll notice is some people will not include like the word women's issues. And once that happens, then there's no more highlight. What happens is they didn't write it in the profile, but they wrote it or they selected it as a specialty. That
Right.
more of a leeway to be able to show up because Psychology K is going to prioritize anybody who has written it within their profile.
Okay.
So with that, we'll wrap it up for today. How was this session for you?
I mean, this was super helpful. Just being able to like kind of talk through it, to see, to be able to think through narrowing down my niche. Because I know what I like to do and who I like to work with, but giving myself permission to narrow it down, and then finding language to really speak to that particular population is very, very helpful. And you giving me like some really easy, actionable steps too.
Okay. And so what I would say is the last piece is once you change it and then you save it, again, all you're doing is testing it out. The back end has what is called profile performance. I want
Okay.
you to start tracking that on a monthly basis to
Okay.
see if these changes have actually improved your visibility on the platform, because most therapists use one metric of success, which is a referral. And I get that because they're trying to build their caseload, but that's not the only metric that lets you know if your profile is actually performing well. The metric you want to look at is how many results views did you get per month and how many profile views? Because if you're noticing an increase in profile views, that means there are more people seeing your profile. And especially if you can get a video there and you feel confident with that video, I'm hopeful that that's going to start churning more into people wanting to work with you.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
And hopefully we can Once this goes live, I'll let you know, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay,
Thanks, Omar. I appreciate it.
bye.
Bye.